North Korea, the rebellious teenager of the world. Antisocial, fanboy, makes poor financial decisions, hates his family, and spends all his time in his room on his computer. Yeah, you heard that right. North Korea, the computer genius. This land, pitch black from space, seemingly devoid of any technical capability whatsoever, is home to one of the most infamous hacker groups on the planet, Lazarus. Just one of the names that this group goes by, made away with almost $625 million in Ethereum and USDC last March, after a successful hack on Axie Infinity's Ronin network bridge. Indeed, these attackers supposedly offered one of the senior engineers at Sky Mavis, Axie's parent company, a job on LinkedIn. This job offer, which was in the form of a PDF, was opened and then unleashed spyware on the engineer's computer. This ultimately meant that the hackers could take control over 4 out of 9 network validators. This is known as a 51% attack and enabled the hackers to completely drain the bridge. What's really mind-blowing, however, is that Lazarus's ability to launder this money is incredible. Only around $30 million of this amount were recaptured, and the rest, well, who knows? It's probably being used to build another Hotel of Doom. So this is what we're going to be focusing on today. What on earth allowed these hackers to keep their money? And more importantly, who's to blame here? So I'm sure you've all heard of crypto mixers, right? Because transactions are all stored in a public ledger, it's very easy to see where money comes and goes from, and because of this, a mixer will attempt to erase these footsteps and provide you with more anonymity. On a high level, they work by effectively pooling funds that have been deposited by many different users, shuffling them in a seemingly random fashion, and then distributing them back to each depositor while taking a small service fee. Because these mixer services act a bit like a filter, it's no surprise that these hacking groups such as Lazarus would run to them first as a port of call to clean their funds. And as a result, you could suggest that the presence of a mixer in a coin's history is a sure sign of illicit activity, but the truth is, mixers are often used by ordinary people who simply value their privacy. A lot of people who are entering the crypto world do so because they value total anonymity. And when they realize that the blockchain is like an open book at the library that anyone can peer into, and centralized exchanges often link your physical identity to your transactions, well then mixers can be a way of regaining that transaction privacy that they sought out in the first place. And what you might not know is that there's a kind of hacking attack called dusting, where a scammer might send a few illicit coins to someone's wallet before attempting to then de-anonymize them and extort them or blackmail them. You could be framed for selling child pornography on the dark web and have your life ruined. But having mixing as an option means that you can counteract such attacks. Moreover, if you're a high-profile individual and you want to donate to political causes without the details being made public, well then mixers are incredibly useful. Vitalik Buterin even said publicly that he used mixers for such a purpose, specifically to donate money to support those affected by the war in Ukraine. However, unfortunately some of these same cryptocurrency mixing services are being used for illicit activities too. Real people who are selling child pornography, guns and drugs on the dark web are using mixers. Those who are financing terrorism are using mixers, and those who are laundering money from criminal activity are using mixers. So we're posed with a bit of a dilemma. When a mixer is used for criminal activity, are the developers of that mixer complicit in that crime? Well, Tornado Cash is one of those very mixers currently under fire. Incidentally, the exact mixer that was used by Lazarus Group in their Axie Infinity heist. Now, Tornado Cash isn't any ordinary mixer, however. Whereas to some extent coins may be traced through a mixer by, well, somewhat unethically de-anonymizing every address that deposited funds, Tornado incorporates zero-knowledge proofs, which completely erase a user's transaction graph. Zero-knowledge proofs, or ZKPs, are quite difficult to get your head around, but they're basically these new cryptographic techniques that are being used around the world of blockchain for ultra-tight security. But today, all you need to know is that Tornado Cash is a seriously heavy-duty, ironclad mixer. The founders themselves incorporated this technology despite its scalability issues to offer true anonymity to the community, and therefore peace of mind. Ultimately, if there's someone who's trying to frame you or uncover your identity, anything more than a 0% chance of them succeeding is going to stress you out. Moreover, Tornado Cash was always designed to be open source, with its operations being managed by a DAO. It's a paragon for decentralization, The mixer never gains custody over its users' funds at any point during the mixing process, and most of its smart contracts are designed in a way so that they can't be destroyed by anyone, not even the governing DAO itself. Even Vitalik Buterin claimed that projects such as Tornado Cash are successful due to the fact that they're just simply tools that people can put into their existing workflows and projects, not ecosystems with some kind of agenda. And it gets even better. The team actually published recommendations on making withdrawals from the protocol. For example, they recommend waiting at least 5 transactions before withdrawing your funds, waiting 24 hours as a rule, and also using a VPN or proxy when using the service, clearing your cookies for dApps before using your new address for withdrawals. It's clear, noting this information, that behind Tornado Cash is a team well and truly devoted to delivering true anonymity to the blockchain community. But it's here that it gets a bit tricky, because on the other hand, they could be intentionally developing software for criminal use. Is the gun maker at fault if it's that very gun that's being used to maim an innocent person? That's the question here. Well, when Lazarus used Tornado Cash to launder over half of the funds that were stolen from Axie earlier this year, Alexei Pertsev, a developer at Tornado Cash, was arrested and taken in for questioning by the Dutch Fiscal Information and Investigation Service in Holland. But on suspicious of what? What did he do? Facilitating money laundering, of course. And this all happened not too long ago, on the 10th of August. At this stage, you're probably thinking, well, that can't be right. Set him free. But the thing is, this wasn't an isolated incident of suspected money laundering. OFAC justified its sanctions based on the fact that a good chunk of the $7.6 billion worth of tokens that have been fed into the Tornado Cash protocol were actually the proceeds of criminal activity. Indeed, Tornado Cash was suspected to have been used to launder more than $96 million of malicious funds from the June 24, 2022 Harmony Bridge heist, and at least $7.8 million from the August 2nd, 2022 Nomad heist. But look, if you were the authorities in this situation, what would you have done? Close down a platform that was being used for a lot of bad and a little bit of good? Or would you keep it running? But more importantly, could Pertsev have been guilty in any case? Well, the arrest did not go down well with the Web3 community, as you can imagine, especially considering that those working within DeFi projects could potentially come under fire for quote-unquote being complicit in illicit activity. It's the age-old argument of if you sell a gun to someone who's promised that they're only going to use it on their farm for the purposes of pest management, and they then go out and murder someone, well, are you complicit in their crime? If you transpose this example to the world of Web3, a developer at, say, 1inch could be arrested for their part in creating a peer-to-peer protocol that allows an individual to purchase a token from a rug pull project, right? 1inch, being a DEX aggregator, searches for trades across multiple different markets. It gives the users the tools to buy with a grand variety of different tokens, some of which may be more savory than others. If there were KYC and doxing restrictions imposed on 1inch's platform, it wouldn't be true to the spirit of decentralization, and that goes vastly against the values of the project's founders. Now, as many of you know, I'm personally using 1inch for all of my crypto-related endeavors, and you can actually see what their founders had to say about this situation with Tornado Cash. They were very passionate. So on the one hand, you can say that Pertsev is not guilty, and this is effectively a threat to true decentralization, as projects will always have to look over their shoulder to make sure that they're compliant with KYC and AML regulations that have been implemented by some centralized authority. True decentralization, well, it takes the good with the bad. In this sense, we can argue that Pertsev was just doing his job, passionate about taking anonymity to the next level and furthering the dream of Web3. However, one could argue that Pertsev may have been truly guilty as a single suspicious character acting out of self-interest. After all, the founders of Tornado Cash, Roman Semenov and Roman Storm, were left completely alone. Weird, right? And moreover, he was not an official employee of the company either. Rather, he was a third-party developer who contributed code to the decentralized protocol. It's also been stated that Pertsev likely worked for a Russian security company with ties to state intelligence agencies prior to his contributions to Tornado Cash. Of course, these suspicious ties, combined with the work that Pertsev did contribute to the protocol, means that perhaps this was a standalone case, and perhaps it is an example of an individual who did have malicious intent, or rather knowingly implemented features that he knew would be exploited by criminals. But unless Pertsev's connections with hacker groups are exposed and laid to rest in the open, or we get a definite answer on his innocence, we'll never know. This could very well just be an innocent lover of crypto on his way to jail. Ever since the times of ancient Mesopotamia, with the Akkadian Empire rearing its head around 2300 BC, we've been very familiar with centralized systems. Only in the past 10 years, really, with the advent of blockchain technology, has the dream of true decentralization become a reality. One could suggest that this is why we're facing so many hurdles. We're too stuck in our old ways. We want to somehow regulate anonymity, which is staining the true nature of decentralization. In my opinion, it's like selling kitchen knives. They're needed to prepare food, right, which is essential to life. However, you'd be naive to think that they aren't being used as murder weapons occasionally. This is the kind of dilemma we're facing currently within the crypto community, and only time will tell whether we'll be able to overcome these hurdles and fully transition into Web3. Well anyway, thanks for joining us. My name is Bradley, this is Blockhouse, and I will see you next week.